Welcome, everyone, to Healing Wednesdays and the Circle of 12. I am Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monica Morani.
Well, we're back yet again. Every Wednesday evening of the year, we come together with special guests, questions and answers, discussions, meditations, and, of course, channeling. This is our once-a-month free meeting. So, YouTube subscribers, welcome. Also, welcome to all of you who are joining us for the first time from anywhere in the planet, anywhere. And our diagnostics kind of show that there's a lot of you that have that.
A special welcome to our wonderful members of the Circle of 12 who receive one of these programs every single week of the year. If you're not a member, but you follow the Circle of 12 on YouTube, well, this is your 23rd free program. How awesome is that? But if you are a member, this is program number 89. How amazing. All members receive access to every Healing Wednesday program we have ever done. And the library, it's building all the time. In addition, our members receive many extras, including a full index of all the programs.
And of course, the YouTube library is also growing and growing. And this library never expires. You can watch these programs, of course, as long as you wish. So, YouTube subscribers, please take a look at some of the great programs from the past. Perhaps you haven't seen them all, and some of them have wonderful guests you may not even know about. And of course, it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, click the subscribe button and be a regular part of this profound and free experience.
Now, before we do our normal question and answer time, I wanted Lee and I to share some quotes because we also become inspired by you, by others, by the work of others as well. So here's the first quote that I want to share with you. I hope you feel inspired by it as well. It comes from a Greek philosopher, and my goodness, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. I think it is Epictetus. Perhaps I don't have that right, but anyway, it doesn't matter because what matters is the quote. And here it is. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Where have we heard something like that before, Lee?
Well, over and over and still, Krein tells us that our best testimony to what we actually believe is, guess what? Our behavior. It's how we act. It's not an evangelistic posture. Without telling anyone about yourself or what you believe or what you're about, people around you should be able to see that you are compassionate and a caring person. If they want to know more about how you made that work, let them ask. We're not about evangelizing our belief. We are about living it to help humanity.
And here is another quote that I'd like to share with you. And this one comes from Sri Ramana Maharshi, and he was a South Indian mystic. Peace is your natural state. It is your mind that destroys it. Oh, I love that. Peace is your natural state. It's your mind that destroys it. Lee, what do you think about that quote?
Well, Krein has even gone further than that. It's your mind that often creates the barriers to almost everything that gets in the way of life's magnificence. We teach this all the time. It's your mind. Now, mind is, I'll redefine mind, it's your consciousness that paints pictures of who you are and often voids out your own worth. Fear is the worst thing that we create, and we do it very well. It stops clarity. It stops compassion. It stops reason. It stops kindness. And it saps us, truly. It beats us up and shortens our lives. All this, and we do it to ourselves.
Here's one final quote. Are you ready? Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Don't let the noise of other people's opinion drown out your own inner voice. Now, what great philosopher do you think said that? Okay, I'm going to reveal it. It was Steve Jobs, founder of Apple.
I think this is a great saying for everyday life. In these days, we are often, and here I'll use the word again, beat up by others' opinions and other people's truths. It comes at you from friends, from media, pressure from our own culture. Soon, we are believing whatever is the consensus reality of the day. Krein tells us, let intuition be your guide, not the news or your friends. How does something feel to you? What does your inner guidance tell you. I think Steve Jobs lived by this, and it's what made him so different. Major industry consultants regularly told him what would not work. And he went out and showed them that not only did it work, but better than anyone ever thought was possible. I like that. I would love to have known him.
So let's now go to our question and answer part of the program. This question comes from Jonas, and Jonas is in Denmark. Jonas is asking, is the power of one real? Can one person really have that much influence on the whole?
Jonas, yes, one person can have that much influence on the whole. It's the very kind of question I think I would have asked many years ago when I started in metaphysics, because it's a hard thing to grasp. But the short answer, again, is yes, yes. But I want to give you some reasons and examples of why this could be true. And some of them are metaphoric, but I want you to hear it. The premise behind all of this is now known as the field. This idea was always a kind of spiritual idea and had no science behind it at all, especially when I started. But in the last decade or so, all this has changed. The whole idea or premise of the one affecting the many by themselves is now being seen and recognized as, ready? Measurable energy. Now, in September of this year, not too long from now, I'm going to participate in an experiment to validate this very thing. Premise. Question. Can I sit in my studio in California and affect the health in patients in a hospital overseas? Oh, even as I speak to you right now, this audience that I am streaming to, this entire program at this experiment is being set up. It's being seen as an energy experiment. Consider for a moment. Pretend you have a bathtub filled with clear, hot water, and you put a few drops of red food dye into it. Just a few drops. Now, come back to it later without ever disturbing the water and see that the dye has migrated everywhere and the entire bathtub is now pink. The few drops of red dye diffused with every molecule of water in the tub by itself. Now, this is just a metaphor, an example of how the field works. But in the case of the field, we're dealing with multidimensional energy, consciousness. This is the basis of Lynn McTaggart's work in The Power of Eight, and also what she has been doing for years in the measuring of how intentions in one part of the world affect another part. There's a lot more, but there's not really time to give it here. But you can tell I'm excited about this whole premise. The answer I want everyone to know, including you, is that just one of us is like that dropper of red dye. Think for a moment. Did you know that identical twins can often sense the same thing instantaneously on opposite sides of the planet? There's research on that. This is the same kind of process that is involved in the field. And I'm very much into learning and studying that. There's definitely more to come on this, and for those of you who are on the Cryon email list, you may receive, and I hope you do, more information about this experiment and how it will unfold. Thank you, Jonas, for this great question. This is something I would love many to know more about, the field.
And now we're going to take another question. It's Bruce from Connecticut in the US, and Bruce is asking, do we send light into the grids automatically when we're being creative, when we're laughing and happy, when we're meditating and being quiet, or do we need intent to send light? That's a great question.
It's great. And Bruce, the question is actually very related, as you probably can tell, to the last one. For sending energy to the grids for most people is indeed putting it into the field. Even in metaphysics, we're beginning to understand more about the science of what might be happening there. So our definitions and the words we use are beginning to be refined, and they better reflect what we now understand about this energy. To answer the question, let me give you some real-world experience that many of us have actually had. Did you ever walk casually into a room? Maybe you're just happy and all, and it's right after two people have been arguing, and they're standing right there. Wow. The energy in that room is palpable. You can feel it. Has this ever happened to any of you listening? I think the answer might be a resounding yes. So let's stop and ask a question. Did the arguing people intentionally send the energy of their frustration and anger to the room? The answer is no. No. They were just there by themselves, angry with each other, and they were arguing with each other. However, the energy of the event itself went right into the field in that room. It's our example. Hopefully you've had that experience, so you know what I'm talking, you felt it. It was real energy. Many of us have experienced, many of us have had this thing, this whole deal, and it affects us, sometimes a lot. Sometimes we remember that for years. An empath will walk into an area and then walk right out again due to the kind of energy that they can sense there, bottom line. The emotions and thoughts, even marginal actions you may have, affect everything around you. It goes into the field. But the field is not a bathtub. It's a multidimensional energy that encompasses the entire planet instantly. Remember the identical twins example. Now, we can even measure it now with instruments. I love this part, that science is beginning to play in all these things that used to be spiritual in a way that there was no proof. It was just there. We all knew it was. I love that part where science is able to make this, I would say, believable in a formerly intangible area. Remember, I've come from an engineering background, so as this becomes proven, I'm very excited. Krein tells us that not all conscious energies are alike. You know that. But some are far more powerful than others. Now, the power of compassion and kindness, the realization of profound things, it can bring an entire audience to its knees. I've seen that. It's true. Fear can scare people, but love brings them together in remarkable ways. Meditation, quiet celebration, thankfulness, they can create what is called coherence. This coherence can be measured with instruments that analyze heart rate variability, as researched by the HeartMath Institute. We talked about that before. And this coherence spreads to others in a group by itself. The answer to your question is that you and all those around you are actually transmitters of energy through consciousness. If you're joyful, you transmit the energy of joy. If you're compassionate, you transmit that beautiful energy as well. If you do it in a group, it's even more powerful. We are magnificent humans filled with abilities to help humanity in so many ways. So, like the red dye diffuses automatically, so does our joy and our laughter, without any need to intend it somewhere. You can intend it, and that even focuses it, but it's almost automatic as we live our lives in the purity of compassion and joy. Bottom line, laughter and joy spreads. It's far more contagious than fear, and that has been seen and measured.
I love the message of that, how joy and purity goes into the grids. And yet, Lee, I think for me, the difference between having intent and just having a joyful life is the intent is like a laser where you focus and target where you're sending it.
Yeah, as I was mentioning, there really are two different things. I think the answer that I like the most is we're all used to focusing and thinking about, let's say, a group or a situation or something. But people have to know, just like the two people arguing in a room, that love is this way.
Yeah.
Joy and kindness is this way. And you know who's proved that? It's the gurus that we've met in India, and those people, they emanate joy. You can't be angry when you have a couple of joyful people in the room.
And I love thinking about the Aboriginals in Australia, the Anangu. They don't separate spirituality from life and existence. Everything they do is included.
Yep.
There's a oneness there all the time. So I think the oneness of what you said was to just be joy, laughter, and send that out, and it happens.
And again, kudos to Lynn McTaggart. I know I beat this up because she's my hero,
Absolutely.
But really, she is the one who really opened the box to show us this, and of course, HeartMath Institute.
Absolutely. So we're going to do a brief meditation before the channel now. And earlier this week, I woke up where I was feeling less than. There's some things where I've been working on, such as my weight. And you do all of these things, and you wake up sometimes thinking that all your efforts are not doing a single thing, and you feel discouraged and hopeless. And as I said before, you feel less than. And so as I was sitting there in that victim stage, I started to think, well, how can I shift this? And so I invite you to join me in this process that I did for myself, in hopes that you can shift whatever it is in your life right now where you're feeling less than or hopeless about, whether it's not having enough money or whether it's not having the health you want. Join me in this and just see how it feels for you and whether it shifts things. And so I invite you to close your eyes and think of those things that make you feel less than, those feelings that you have, and those feelings are very, very real. And what we're going to do is grab those feelings and we're going to give them a shape, or we're going to give them a colour, or we're going to give them some kind of identifying connection. And we're going to place that feeling down onto a piece of paper that's in front of us. We're just going to put that down because it's real. We're not going to try and get rid of it. It exists. And then if there's another feeling that you feel, like a hopelessness feeling, we're going to give that a shape and a colour or a dimension and place that down into the paper as well. And just trust that your own innate wisdom knows the types of feelings that you want to release. And if there's any other feelings throughout our system that we want to release, we're going to just grab them all now and put them onto that piece of paper in front of us. And now what we're going to do is wrap up that piece of paper. We can even put a string around it and tie it up. And so now we have this package we've created of our very real feelings and emotions. And we're going to gently hold them up and release them to our entourage that's made up of our loving guides that are there to help us. We can release them to Cryon. We can release them to the angelic realms. Spirit is always ready. All we have to do is ask. So dear Spirit, dear Cryon, dear angels and guides, I release this package unto you. And as they take that package from you, it's gone. You've released it. It doesn't belong to you anymore. And now that that package is gone, feel into that lightness that accompanies releasing that. And with gratitude and thanks, thank you. Thank you, dear Spirit. Thank you, Cryon. Thank you, guides and angels, for taking that package. We are now in a posture where we can receive something that they wish to give. And so you may even wish to hold your hands out as they metaphorically hold up a jug that they're going to pour over you and shower you in the blessings of infinite love that they have for you. All you have to do is receive that outpouring of love and blessings and benevolence being given to you, so that every cell in your body in this moment can feel that sense of peace. Feel that sense of wholeness and well-being. And in love and gratitude, we say thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us this love. And now that we have received that gift to ourselves, we know we can do this any time of the day that it is needed. And in gratitude, we now say, thank you, Cryon, for delivering your beautiful messages to us through Lee.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Cryon of Magnetic Service. For many years now, we have been talking about what is happening on the earth currently. Not specifics, but in general, a shift of energy that would affect everyone. Everyone on the planet in some way starts to understand things have changed. And not just that which is in your culture. They've changed worldwide. And if you take a look, you'll see that the new normal is here. We spoke those words, the new normal, many, many years ago, before anyone started using it anywhere. But we saw that as something that would be different for you. But we saw it in a light that the change before you would result in a grander earth. Now, this has always been the controversy. The controversy of almost any of those who would watch this particular program or have followed any of the channelings I've ever given. The controversy is this: how is it possible, Cryon, that you could say that this planet is receiving light when you take a look at what's going on? And so for those of you who perhaps are new to this entire concept, I have spoken of the shift that the ancients have predicted, and it's here. It is not from Cryon. It's astronomy. It has to do with the Mayan calendar. It has to do with all those all over the planet for hundreds, if not thousands of years, who saw this coming in the precession of the equinoxes, and it's here. Some of you have related that to the 2012 experience. It's bigger than that. It's a 36-year window of change, of shift, and it's here. You're in the heart of it now. And all of this, dear ones, is the result of a changing consciousness, because light will win. But light will win, and in the process, as it starts showing itself, that which is negative, that which is old, that which is the old way of things will object. And it's objecting right now. You see that. There are those who want to pull you backwards. And this isn't just going to be that which you see between countries, perhaps on the world scene at the moment. It's internal even. There are arguments within yourself. How do you like the new normal? How are you doing with the new normal? Did anything happen in the recent year or so that you lost friends over? Were there arguments? Were there angers that you didn't expect? All of these, part of the tests that are here. When light starts to occur, how do you treat it? Well, I want to speak to something that is regarding the purity of all of this, that is lurking under the cover of all that you see going on in the planet, and it's for old souls who are studying this and know what I'm talking about. This is for you, old soul. I'm going to call this series of channelings for this month, which is available to all of you for free. The audios are there on my partner's website. They will be produced for everyone. These four, they're going to be called Planting and Harvesting the Seeds of Our Time. Let me make this premise clear. What if on this planet you were a farmer? And what if you did your best to plant and harvest on a regular basis, but suddenly something occurs that you'd never seen before? That spring that does more things than it ever has done at planting time, does more things than it ever has done at harvest time. Suddenly, that which you expected in the plentifulness that you would have had all of your lives for the crops that you plant is doubled or even tripled. Think of this, that on that playing field of what you would call, I would say, agriculture, that it all changes because the planting time is more profound. The harvesting time is more profound. It's almost like the weather changed on the earth that lets you grow things that you never were able to grow before and faster. That is the metaphor right now for what's going on with the old soul. You are being given seeds. Then the seeds that you're being given right now are for you to plant and harvest in a very fast return that you've never seen before. You're still in an old energy where you go someplace and expect a result instantly. I need this, I need that. Well, let's talk about one kind of seed. There will be many, and I'm going to extend this into the circle of 12. This planet, you, your life, everyone around you, needs to start seeing and recognizing benevolence. Benevolent change in the way things are, the way they work, the reactions to people, a higher consciousness. I want you physically to see those seeds that have been planted in you as an old soul that you came in with now suddenly are released. I want you to visualize, if you choose, something that every child has seen. You punch a seed into the ground, you cover it with dirt, and you water it. And in your case, those seeds are the seeds of high consciousness on this planet that you alone can visualize, putting them into a wet earth perhaps and covering them with dirt and rich soil and watching them start to germinate and grow instantly. And you water them with intent, with love, compassion, kindness. And when they start to grow, along with all the other old souls that are doing certain things, this planet is going to see that they represent the food of truth. And you're going to start understanding that the harvest from them will start to be seen not in months, not in even weeks, but almost instantly. These are multidimensional seeds. And they're of a kind that I want you to see as something new for you in your life. That you came in with this, but now you can plant them. And you can plant them figuratively, metaphorically, anywhere you wish to. But as you plant them in one place, they harvest everywhere. That was the subject, was it not, of the questions of the day that my partner and his partner just took for you. A seed that is planted will harvest everywhere, even though you punch it into the ground, perhaps even in your own life. Start to visualize if you wish to. Start to think about if you wish to. A planet where benevolence starts to occur. And the benevolence is a result of the light that is coming in, that so many are afraid of because it's causing so many problems. It's not causing the problems. It's just exposing what was already there. Do you see any agendas that might have been advanced because the light is coming? Yes. Have you seen anything else that you think happened randomly on this planet, including diseases or what, that may have actually had a source that you didn't expect because the light was there? Anything to slow up the planet because the light is coming. Have you seen it? This may start making more sense to you metaphysically, dear ones. Maybe the things that have started happening since 2020. They had something else going on, a result of a little too much light on the planet to push you backwards, to make you angry, to make you afraid, to make you fearful. It won't work because light will show through all of this. But now you understand you are carrying the seeds that can be planted. Think of it that way and you won't feel useless. Think of it that way. Is there something I can do for the planet? Yes. Start pushing those seeds into the ground and visualizing benevolence everywhere you walk, everywhere you are. Benevolence in every system on the planet starts to arrive. That's what old souls do. It's time to sow those seeds. It's time to push them into the ground. This is the shift. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.
And from that beautiful place where Kryon has taken us, I invite you to bring the energies of Kryon on that channel back with you as you make that transition to become fully aware of the room you are in. Bring your attention and focus back into your body. If you've had your eyes closed, I invite you to open up your eyes. And now that we have your focus and attention and awareness back into this alert phase, I am so super excited to have two amazing healers joining us on our program. Their names are Karen and Eben, and I want to make sure that they're there on the Zoom feed. Karen and Eben, are you there?
We are here loud and clear. It's good to be with you today.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I didn't give the full names of those two delightful couple. We're going to do that now as we read the bio.
Well, this is a very special day because these people are just people you need to know. I would like to have Monica, would you start with Karen, and then I'll go with Evan.
Absolutely. So Karen Newell is an author and specialist in personal development with a diverse body of work that rests upon the foundation of heart-centered consciousness. I love that. It's not just consciousness. She's focusing on the heart-centered consciousness. As an innovator in the emerging field of brainwave entrainment audio meditation, Karen empowers others in their journeys of self-discovery by demonstrating how to connect to inner guidance, achieve inspiration, improve wellness, and develop intuition. Karen is the co-founder of Sacred Acoustics and the co-author with Eben Alexander of Living in a Mindful Universe.
So let's talk about Eben Alexander for a moment. Eben Alexander, MD, was an academic neurosurgeon for over 25 years, including 15 of those years at Brigham and Women's Hospital, Children's Hospital, and, of course, Harvard Medical School in Boston. He experienced a transcendental near-death experience, we call that an NDE, folks, during a week-long coma from an inexplicable brain infection that completely transformed his worldview. Everything changed. He's a pioneer scientist and modern thought leader in emerging science that acknowledges the primacy of consciousness in the universe. I hope you got that, folks. He's an author, a New York Times #1 bestseller, Proof of Heaven, The Map of Heaven, and Living in a Mindful Universe. Karen and Eben, it was a delight to have you on this show. Welcome.
Lee and Monica, it's great to be here today. Thanks so much for having us on.
I am so looking forward to this discussion.
You, Eben, probably have said this. You've told your story thousands of times, I'm quite sure. But for those who have not heard it and all like that, I know you can make it concise, but what happened?
Well, important to point out, I'd spent 54 years of my life honing a scientific worldview. All began with my father, who was very influential as a scientist, neurosurgeon, but he was also very religious. He believed in a loving personal God. I had struggled with that through much of my life. 15 years teaching at Harvard Medical School, I felt very confused about the notion of conscious awareness surviving death of the brain and body. And that's why my NDE was of such value to me. What happened in that week in November 2008 changed my life forever. It's been written up as a case report in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease by 3 doctors who were absolutely astonished by my recovery. But the essence of it was my journey was very in the setting of complete amnesia. I knew nothing of Earth, humanity, Eben Alexander's life. It was an empty slate. And that's unusual for NDEs, but in many ways, looking back on my own over the first few years, I came to realize why it was so important. And very briefly, my journey involved several different kind of layers of the spiritual realm. Earth Were My View was where it all started, very primitive course on responsive realm, but I was rescued by a slowly spinning white light that came packaged with a perfect musical melody. And that served as a portal up into a rich gateway valley that had many Earth-like features. I was a speck of awareness on a butterfly wing, luscious valley and meadow down below with all these souls between lives, lots of dancing and merriment, but it was being fueled because up above were these swooping angelic choirs emanating chants and anthems, hymns that would just thunder through me. And it turns out that a companion with me on that butterfly wing was very crucial. If those who have read my book, Proof of Heaven, will realize at the end of that book, 4 months after my coma, coming into a realization of how all this happened and that my guardian angel was someone very important to me, but someone I did not know in my life. And that's a long story. We don't have time to go into it all. But the essence of it was, given the documented damage to my neocortex that is very clearly spelled out in that case report in the Journal of Nervous Mental Disease, it's very clear that my brain did not come up with a hallucination or dream. My brain was far too ill for that, and that's why the scientific community takes my case very seriously. And I've spent the 13 years since that coma experience working as a scientist with hundreds of scientists around the world to more fully explain consciousness and these incredible human experiences for what they show us about the nature of reality.
That makes my heart sing so much, hearing every single word that you have said. And in particular, you mentioned the melody of music on the other side. And so that makes me want to ask Karen, who focuses on music, tell us a little bit about you and how you started.
Well, I started just with the kind of curiosity we all have about why are we here and what is our purpose. And I knew from all of the reading that I was doing that meditation, learning how to quiet the racing thoughts in our mind, was highly critical to this process to generate firsthand experience. And so through lots of trial and error, I discovered a certain type of sound, specifically these binaural beats that are contained in brainwave entrainment audio recordings, really helped me to quiet the mind. And it was in that setting that I met Eben. And he, after his coma, 3 years after his coma, he was also exploring sound to get into expanded states of consciousness, much like he experienced during his near-death experience. And so it was in this setting where I met Eben, but it was way before his book came out. I didn't know his story. I did know that he had had a near-death experience. So I'm making conversation with him at this workshop, and I said, you know, I knew I'd known others who had had near-death experiences, and I knew they came back usually with these very profound, deep spiritual, often very personal lessons. And so I just cut right to the chase, and I said, so what was the lesson? What did you learn? What was the gist of it all? And he looks at me and he says, the brain doesn't create consciousness. And this confused me. And I said, well, why would anyone think that it does? Because I didn't understand the materialist worldview, that was basically the foundation of the materialist worldview, is that consciousness arises from the brain, from physical matter. And I had understood already through my own exploration and personal experience that our souls are fundamental. That to me is what consciousness is, the part of us that comes into the body and inhabits the body. But it was through this sound that I was able to experience much of what Eben experienced, not in the same intensity, don't get me wrong, but I was able to touch that love. He didn't talk about the core realm, but after he was in that gateway kind of earth-like realm, it was the angelic choirs, the music that sort of put him into the deepest realm of his experience. And that's where you felt it in the gateway too.
Divine.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the oneness with the divine.
That God force, it becomes the source of our very conscious awareness. I mean, it was an astonishing experience to go through, and it really it's taken me 13 years to even get to this point, and I'm sure I still have a lot of work to do in understanding it, but it's extraordinary where the scientific world is headed on the primacy of consciousness in the universe.
And that is so important to Eben, but I was more interested in, what about that love? Why aren't you saying that's your most fundamental lesson? And he says, well, it really is, but the truth is you can't bring that love back here. The love he experienced there, he has not necessarily experienced in the same way here. And I said, well, I've touched that love. I think you can bring some of that here. And it may not be the same intensity, but the love that I've touched, and I'm sure many of your listeners have, it's real, it's palpable, it's very hard to put words to it, but I like to use words associated with light, like shimmering or glistening or radiating. That's what love is. It's kind of an active feeling that moves and shifts in your body. And while we definitely connected on the intellectual concept of the brain doesn't create consciousness and this loving kind of connection, we also experienced a very deep personal connection when we first met that changed both of our lives even more significantly. But we have now come together. Eben wanted to teach others how to experience these kinds of states, and that's when he invited me to help teach others how to use this sound. And he was actually the catalyst for my business partner, Kevin Cossey, who's the audio engineer extraordinaire. He and I create these recordings, but Eben was the catalyst because he thought these recordings that we had up until that point only recorded for ourselves, he wanted them to be available to others. And that's when we entered this kind of shared devotion to helping others generate these same kinds of personal experiences so they can come to the same understandings in their lives.
You know, I know it's going to seem like going backwards here because I'm I'm a nerd. I'm science-based originally and then became, of course, a channeler later. That was a transformation. And I want to hit hard on something because I'm standing and sitting and talking to you right in front of somebody who has experienced this very, very profoundly. And that is this. Science tells us, and you've already said it, this is a repeat, but I want to hear it again. Science tells us that on death, the brain will create delusional things as a help so that you can die without panic or die perhaps better. In other words, it's chemistry. And that is exactly wrong. And that we have always said, no, it isn't. And, you know, the brain, the soul is everything. That's the primal source, and it inhabits the body for a while and moves on or whatever. Actually, Krein says it is in both places at once. Our soul is in us at the same time we are in us, but the soul is the driver. Now, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think this basically evolving awareness of the mind-brain relationship and the deep nature of consciousness and conscious awareness investigated in a scientific fashion, in very rigorous investigation by experts in these phenomena, and then the theoretical work to explain how it can all happen. I think that work is making tremendous progress. And from my point of view, I think our book, Living in a Mindful Universe, does a very kind of thorough job of introducing people to the unification of science and spirituality in the modern era through this primacy of consciousness. But also we work with many scientific groups, and that includes the group at University of Virginia, Division of Perceptual Studies. And I will simply say for the scientific community, if you want to see the tremendous progress in this field, just look at the 3 books edited by Ed Kelly, beginning in 2007 with Irreducible Mind, which many people have read and realized was absolutely revolutionary, but that was just the beginning. He edited a follow-up book called Beyond Physicalism in 2015, which took all of this discussion much further along the pathway towards explaining this primacy of mind and how it works in this universe. And then finally, his book Consciousness Unbound, edited by Ed Kelly, came out in spring of 2021. And that goes even further towards elaborating this kind of scientific vision of the brain as a filter, of the kind of mind as primordial in the universe.
And
I
idealism.
think, and idealism, ultimately. And then it gets to definitions of kind of consciousness and God and all that. But I think idealism is just admitting that there is, you know, this important top-down causal layer of information integration and assimilation in the universe that some might call the mental universe. That's been well described, for example, in quantum physics from various people like Richard Kahn Henry.
But he also calls it a spiritual and
He
mental
does.
universe,
He
which I think
makes
is
that
really
point.
important.
In his essay in the scientific journal Nature in 2005, Richard Kahn Henry, who was in physics at Johns Hopkins at the time, makes it very clear that from a quantum physics perspective, the universe is primarily mental and spiritual, not physical. And that's really where all of this is headed. That's where we headed in Living in a Mindful Universe. Absolutely the direction in which Ed Kelly and his three fascinating books has gone. And again, as Karen points out, then it starts to get into your definitions of kind of mind and God, where you're kind of defining this oneness with the divine, so often described by near-death experiencers. And really, all of us as sentient beings can come to the same knowing through meditation, through centering prayer. We all have ways of going within to connect. As you've been doing, Lee, in many decades of your life, connecting very actively and practically with the other side. And yet what we would say is, based on our workshops and our work and books, and that we think that anyone, any conscious being who has an interest in doing this can pursue this kind of deep integration of relationship with that primordial mind.
Krein has said for 30 years that there's a song playing all of the time, and that when we pass over, or sometimes you don't even have to pass over, when you go to that place which is your soul, you hear it, and that it's the song of home, and that it's the most splendorous thing you've ever heard, and it soothes your heart. Do you feel that you experienced any of that?
Every bit of that. In fact, that was one of the things that was so important to clarify early on, and I did, in my presentations in the book Proof of Heaven, talk about what a personal spiritual home it is. It's so comforting. People hear these descriptions and they think, "Oh, that sounds foreign or dreamy," or it sounds like something maybe foreboding. And yet every bit of my experience was extremely endearing and kind of heartening and connecting. And that, I think, is the important thing. And it's why people should take the time to go into meditation and centering prayer in this lifetime, to connect more fully with that aspect of themselves, their greater connection to the universe, so it won't be such a shock when they leave their physical body once and for all at bodily death. It's worth, I often say that the most important lessons that come out of the study of near-death experiences, it's not what happens when I die, but how do I make choices today in dealing with myself and others that best reflect who I truly am, based on this broad experience that we have called life. And we realize the materialist model is no longer adequate, and there's a much richer way of sensing this connection, this power of the love to connect us all.
Absolutely beautiful. And I think that's why, Karen, I loved when you have in your description that you focus on heart-based consciousness. So can you just share with us a little more of that verbiage, heart-based consciousness, and what that means to you?
Well, one of the tools that I used to help me learn to meditate was sound, but another very significant one was a technique I learned through some Sufi taught teachers that they call heart rhythm meditation. And at its most simplest, it asks you to imagine that your breath is moving in and out of your heart. And once you do that, at the same time generating, say, feelings of gratitude, then you realize this is the seat of who we really are. When you can remove your awareness from those racing thoughts, conversations you want to have, the voice in your head that tells you're not good enough, or you're not, all of those things. When you can move away from that and feel your way through life, then everything changes. And I would say that there's a difference in the way that you can experience love. I know I have. One is from a sort of an intellectual standpoint, where you make a decision based on practical realities that, yes, I love this person is nice, and I love this person, I want to be with this person. But another kind of love is not intellectual at all. It is a feeling that you get. It feels like a warmth. It usually is involved with connection to another person, like much like I had when I first met Eben, when I first met Ram Dass, I had a very similar kind of feeling in my heart. But I've also experienced it with animals, with whales, with dogs. I've experienced it with plants, with trees.
Yeah.
You can really make a connection to anything without words. In fact, when I took a bunch of courses in animal communication, they always said, ask from your heart. So all of this direction made me realize how critical the heart was. And the research of heart math only confirmed all of it, that our hearts are emitting an electromagnetic field that is based on our emotional state. And that seems to affect others around us. And that is, to me, the ultimate golden rule, is to really have awareness of what's going on in your heart. I know when I first started doing the heart rhythm meditation, I found a lot of hurt and pain and loneliness that I didn't know I had. Once I cleared that out, then my true heart was filled with my true essence, the part that knows I'm important, and we all are important. Every soul is critical on this earth because we're all connected to one consciousness. And so when Eben often says we have one mind, I'll say, no, we have one heart, or one spirit. That's how we connect. And this term that some scientists, open-minded scientists, often say, and Eben included, mind over matter. I like to say, well, it's spirit over matter, because mind is where we think those are our thoughts. And it's really beyond our thoughts that the connection to spirit happens. And we get there, I think, very efficiently through the heart. And so that's where we definitely connected that way, and how I try to explain the heart of consciousness.
I think that was a great definition, and I love the interplay between it's the one mind, no, it's the one heart. And recently we had a guest on our program also doing heart math that helped her in her process, Paula Connor, and she spoke about the longest journey you ever take is from your brain or your mind to your heart. Now, Eben, you did it in such a dramatic way. Going from
the
your
only
brain.
way he would have ever been convinced, by the way.
Exactly.
That is true, but I think witnessing my own kind of struggle with how to present this to the world over the last 13 and a half years since it all happened, Karen clearly played a tremendous role. And I would say meeting her 3 years after my coma, when we were both very interested in how differential frequency sounds could be very powerful at shifting things in the brainstem and setting our consciousness free. I mean, that was one of the biggest gifts. And realizing Karen had lived her whole life as an idealist, which I was just beginning to realize was the correct answer. But then that constant reminder, as this neurosurgeon, I would keep getting up in my head about it all, and that beautiful, gentle reminder from Karen about heart consciousness.
Well, the way this hit you,
beautiful.
The way this hit him personally is that I asked him at one point, because I often ask people this, do you love yourself? And I thought, he's been on the other side, he's experienced this amazing love and describes it so beautifully. And I said, well, do you love yourself? And he said, no, I don't. Well, he thought about it, actually, and it had to do with the fact he was adopted. And so from a pre-speaking age, he was rejected by his mother, who did love him but couldn't keep him. And that was taken away from him. And so through his whole life, he carried that. And it was after his near-death experience where he was told, you are deeply loved and cherished forever. This is what he tells people, but he didn't know it himself. And now you do.
I do.
You through that process
and a lot
of
of it has come through meditation. It clearly involved that NDE as a catalyst, but people need to realize that just having an NDE, you're going to spend the rest of your life unpackaging the whole thing. It's not like all of a sudden you understand the whole world. You understand it's much bigger than you ever thought before, but that doesn't mean that you fully assimilated the experience. And I'm still in the process of assimilating that experience and growing through it, and helping the scientific community as best I can because of my position in understanding the science, and also having had an experience of extraordinary depth into the spiritual realm.
Tell us about sacred acoustics a little more in audio meditations, and I'm very interested as an audio engineer about that.
Well, they're basically created with a foundation of what we call binaural beats, and that's where you have one sound in one ear, a slightly different sound in the other ear, and that creates, the brain translates that into sort of a wah, 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 steady sound. And they're programmed very deliberately to entrain the brain to lower states of awareness, say associated with delta, theta, alpha, as opposed to beta, the state that we're in when we're walking around. So any frequencies that are below 12 hertz are outside that beta range. But since we can't hear below 12 hertz, these binaural beats create that sound for us. Usually we're hovering around that 4 hertz realm, which is the border between awake and asleep. And when people listen to around 4 hertz, they often get into what we call a hypnagogic state, where the body is profoundly relaxed, but the mind is still aware. And this is where the magic happens. Using your intention, you can go on journeys, you can communicate with departed loved ones, you can connect with your higher self, I hate to say expanded self. But at its basic foundation, we did a pilot study where a psychiatrist in New York City did a study within her practice and found over a 2-week period of listening to recordings and listening protocols that I provided, a 26% reduction in anxiety was noted.
Wow.
And so just by listening to these recordings, people were able to reduce their anxiety by a highly significant amount. The control group in this setting, who received therapy but not the sound, had only a 7% reduction in anxiety over that same time period. So people use them to help themselves sleep, help get better focus, get in touch with their intuition, and then a little more exotic spiritual travel sometimes. So that's what they are used for, and sacredacoustics.com has a free 20-minute download that people can get, but just by putting in their email. But also, the Whole Mind Bundle are the exact set of recordings used in that pilot study, and we invite anyone to come and download those, because we know that as each of us reduces our anxiety, that it's helping all of us. And so that's why when the COVID pandemic first started, I reduced the price significantly, but there's also a free option. And that's the one I'm trying to stress here, is that these are accessible for anyone. And the best way to find out how they affect you is to try it yourself.
Listen through headphones.
Listen through headphones is very important, because then you
Yes.
get those binaural beats.
Yes.
And I want to point out that most of us are familiar with brass bowls or crystal bowls,
Yes.
or tuning forks, gongs. All of those instruments emit that wah, wah sound, although there's a lot of natural harmonics that take place. But those same instruments are emitting natural binaural beats.
Yeah.
So we all can benefit from these, with or without these binaural beat recordings.
I would just add that a peer-reviewed pilot study was by Dr. Anna Yusim, Y-U-S-I-M, and it came out in Journal of Nervous and Mental Diseases in February of 2021.
That is brilliant.
Oh.
People, I want to remind you to go to sacredacoustics.com. That's where you're going to get the free offer. I think there needs to be a caution or warning on there, warning that side effects may produce states of bliss.
And coherence.
Warning
Well, we do have a warning, which is don't listen and drive. Because,
Yeah, right.
you
Don't
need
listen
to
and think
relax,
much.
But you might relax a little too much. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I do want to talk about Eben's website, because, you know, Lee's a big fan. You have the Proof of Heaven in your office,
Yes,
right?
I do.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
one of
I
your
do.
favorite books.
Yep.
And you can go to ebenalexander.com so that you can also have a look at that website, and there's a free offer on there as well for our beautiful community. We are almost out of time, so I want to just throw it back to the two of you. Any last things that you want to impart to our community?
Well, I think I would just like to stress something Karen said a little while ago. Every soul is involved in this awakening. We often like to say, no soul left behind. And really, this is a time of, I would say, a confluence of more than 5,000 years of human history in terms of moving to a next level. And that is something that all of us can participate in. And even though the world may look frighteningly polarized and fractured in this moment, a lot of that is kind of fundamentalists reacting to realizing that some of the old ways of thought that have been so damaging to our world are something humanity is about to leave behind. And it's that kind of threat of extinction that lets so many people kind of scream out. And yet the reality is there's good reason to be optimistic about where we're headed on all this. And that's what Karen and I talk about in all of our webinars and talks and books. And it's a very promising future that we see for humanity.
And it's true. Each and every one of us is critical in this process. So anyone who's listening, if you're already a regular meditator, bravo, go deeper. If you're not, start some kind of personal practice. It can be movement, it can be walking in nature, it can be, using our sound, any form of meditation. Start somewhere. Start generating that personal experience. You will find it in your heart. That's where the answers lie. That is your connection to your inner world and your connection to that greater consciousness that we are all a part of. It's really our birthright to understand and experience this while we're here in these bodies.
Oh, thank you
Wow.
both so much.
Thank you.
We are rejoicing in your messages. Yeah.
Well, thanks for all that you guys do.
Yeah, thanks for getting this out to
You've
the world.
been at
and
this
all
for
you've been doing
years.
for decades.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
With gratitude to you, too.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, in that state of beautiful gratitude, take that with you on this next 10-minute break, and then we'll see you back here for the Circle of 12.
Well, welcome back from break, everyone. It was wonderful to have Evan and Karen.
Yeah.
Each of these guests could have their own show.
Absolutely.
Their modalities and their processes of what they've known, what they've been through, is very different
Absolutely.
and is profound.
It's why I love that quote from Cryon, where your personal journey affects others in ways you can't imagine. And
It's
those
absolutely
two
true.
individuals, Karen and Eben, their own personal journey that they experienced, look at how many people they've
Yep.
affected.
And I know I said it, but I mean it. I have the Proof of Heaven book is in my house, on my my table. It's profound stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, it's time again to do what we're calling miracle moments. This program you're watching right now is about healing. So we really want to honor all of those of you who really need a healing right now in whatever form. And we're inviting you to participate in this week's Miracle Moments, where all of us can come together to help others and ourselves. I'd like to ask Monica to explain how this works. We know that together that we can create the right energy at the right time for those who are ready to receive it.
Our members have a place where prayer and energy requests are made, and we are inviting you right now to join me to honour all of those who have made specific requests, as well as those who are on this planet right now who are in need of healing or prayers or energy being sent to them. And we want to use this group that have tuned into this program to come together in a field of coherence. Well, what does that even mean? It means that you are powerful because inside of you is a spark of the Creator. And that spark is always there at the ready to connect with all the other sparks that are on the planet. And when we come together with that conscious intent to do so, all of those sparks begin to ignite in one big field of coherence, this synchronized energy of togetherness. And so when we join in this way and send out energy to those who are needing it in this moment, that wave of energy that we send is amplified because we're doing that together. And that brings us to another phrase that Cryon gives us, which is, you are never alone. You are never, ever, ever alone. You could go into the closet and close the door, And still then, you are never alone. You have an entire family with you always. And right now, this family is coming together in love and compassion. And as you are sending out that feeling of oneness and love, being amplified to those who need it, it's being targeted right back at you. And so take that moment now to feel that wave of love, to feel that eternalness, to feel the truth behind those words that you are never alone. And perhaps that's all that those people in need require right now, to not feel that they are alone, that they have love and they have support. And they do. It is us loving every single human on the planet right now. And so just visualize all of us coming together with one massive big group hug, heart to heart, soul to soul. What an amazing family of humanity we are. And as we release that energetic hug, we can now sit back and invite the loving messages of Kryon to come through.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer. This is the Circle of 12, and it is the first program or episode of the month. Every single week, we have a little journey, and we invite you to come with us on the journey. It's a little different every single time, and there's also some sameness every single time. We said in the channel today that we're going to feature a theme, and that theme is going to echo in these Circle of 12s. In these meditations, we will mirror what happened in the channel to some extent. But the Circle of 12 is different. It's not necessarily a channel filled with information, it's a meditation filled with experience. The invitation for all of you is to go on a journey. The first month that we did this, I remember in the channeling presenting over and over the question, is this real? Is this not real? For each time a human being closes their eyes and perhaps goes on a visualization or a pretend journey, each time that happens, there is a sense that they are not experiencing anything real. The human being thinks as they are, and that is, they work in 3D while they're awake, and when they're asleep, it's dream time. And they assign to dreams a non-reality. They're simply dreams. And then they wake up and they go back to the real world. This is a hard paradigm to break, and we ask you to very early. Is it possible that the human being can project themselves through their consciousness into that which is real without their body? That's a rhetorical question, because the answer has always been yes. There's even a term for it, an out-of-body experience. Consciousness is king. It is who you are. The body comes along with it when the consciousness is in your body. And when the body is no longer involved, whether it's in passing or not, you still are you at the core level. And you can travel without the body. There are those who've made much of this even while they were alive on the planet. There's some of you who can do this. We're asking you to do this every single week. Is it possible that together you and I can go across that metaphoric bridge, and it's as real to you as you are in a chair right now, perhaps, is real to you. You define your reality often as being awake in 4 dimensions, being alert, cognizant of who you are and what you're doing. Well, that cognizant of who you are and what you're doing can be done completely and totally without the body. And as you sit there, you can be in 2 places at once. And this we have shown you over and over. The researchers who measure these things know it's real. That's what happens when you expand your dimensionality to being more than 4. When you go into all dimensions at once, which is who you are, and touch the face of God. And what do you mean by that, Brian? I mean that you move into that which is your soul, the vehicle which is home. That place, if you wish to call it that, that you have come from and go to and from regularly. We have said many times, you are eternal. That which is God is represented in your soul, and you have God inside because of it. You have multidimensional parts of your body, your DNA, all which play a part in that which is possible with your consciousness. Consciousness puts you into the field, a multidimensional aspect of earth and all that is. We have spoken of that. That is also measurable and is even provable. We've given so many examples of how humans have done this for eons. And that's where we want you to be, in that is a belief that you can go to this place across the bridge, which, dear ones, visits who you really are at the core essence. From the beginning, we've asked you to go across this bridge with us into the unknown. And we have labeled this and called this from the known to the unknown. We've also reminded you, as human beings, it's often difficult. If a person cannot visualize, then how do they even visualize what they know? If they go into the unknown, how can they begin to visualize something they've never seen? This, dear ones, is not necessarily a big problem, because there are always ways around that. And we've given you some of those too. For those who cannot visualize or have trouble with this, I'm going to ask you to do this. Come with me on a journey. You've all walked. You've all gone across a bridge. You can do that. You don't have to see it in your mind. I want you to feel the love involved as you move across a bridge. There's something that starts to come over you. It's a feeling that you've never felt before, or that you perhaps have in the circle of 12, that you know now is real. It's as real as the chair or the couch you sit in. Giving intent to go to that core of yourself, dropping into your heart, opens the door for manifestation, for becoming more than you think you are, for discovering your self-essence, the discovery of self. Today will be different. It'll be different from anything we've ever done. It will carry a different kind of way it's done. You'll see. You stand on the precipice, perhaps it's a cliff, looking into an abyss. Many of you have had that experience, so you don't have to visualize much. The journey is across this bridge, but you can't see what's on the other side. To many, this is frightening. Would you do this in real life? The answer is no. If you can't see across the bridge, unless you've had pictures of what's there, or those who have gone there and said, oh, it's fine, and come back, if you're on your own, you probably wouldn't have done it. And that's why I say every single episode, take my hand, I'm coming with you. So let's do that. right now. Take my hand. This journey is about love. And as you cross that bridge through a mist that obfuscates what's coming and what's on the other side, the unknown is replaced with a feeling of love. You walk in the hands of God. That is your soul. You walk into that which is something you have felt before. Even if you've never been in this program, you've felt it before. Because this is where you've come from. This is the magnificence of the love of Spirit, of the compassion that is there for you. Your name goes here. A name perhaps you've never even heard, the name we sing in light, which is you. You're not going to go into a theater this time. Dear ones, you're going to go through a door. You've all seen a door. Not hard to imagine going through a door. It has no door on it. It's an opening of a door. And you go through it. And you come into a very large room. You have been here actually before. There have been some circle of 12s, or you've met many in this room, or one in this room. This is no different. This time, however, there is no chair. But there is someone there, an individual. And this individual is familiar to you. Now, if it were my partner making this journey, that individual would be male. Because my partner would want the male guide, the male wise elder. If you're a woman taking this journey, that person will be a woman. Because you want that to be your guide, the one who knows you intimately and personally at the soul level. So let's pretend for a moment that this is a story where the guide is a male. And I do that because it's easier to tell a story when you know the gender of who's talking. But it can be anyone you want. So it gives you a clue to what's next. You're going to meet your guide, one of them. It appears to be one of them. So we're going to shift into story mode, which we have done before, perhaps in all the parables, where a man who is a woman is named Woe, and he walks into this space, and Woe is you, male or female, and the guide is there waiting. The guide speaks, "Welcome, dear one. I've been expecting you." You know they've been expecting you. Who are you? You might say, "Who are you?" And the person speaks back to you in a voice that is oozing with love, benevolence, power, and you recognize it so firmly. It melts your heart to hear this voice, trusting. It says, "I am your guides." Did you hear it right? I am your guides. This person is all three. The three in one. This guide metaphorically, metaphysically, multidimensionally is all three of your guides wrapped into one image. Some may say, "Well, how can you be here when you're also on earth with me?" And the guide will laugh and he'll say, "Because I'm right now on earth with you. I'm always with you. Wherever your consciousness of magnificence is, that's where I am." I've told you, this man or woman continues to say, "I'm always with you. Whether you acknowledge me or not, we are here. We walk with you through life. And today we want to show you something." There is a shelf seemingly floating in air right beside this magnificent one who belongs to you. And this magnificent one speaks and says, "On the shelf there are many jars, and each one of the jars is filled to the brim with seeds." Aha. So if you went through the channel, you know the seeds are about that which is to be planted on earth by you, if you choose to do so. And this magnificent guide, this loving guide says, dear one, it's time. This is why you were born at this time. The shift is here. The changes are afoot. The light is starting to appear on the planet, and there is a pushback to that light. Negativity does not want the light. It's time to plant the seeds. You might ask, well, are these seeds new? Did they just arrive? Is it something that has just occurred on this shelf? And the beautiful guide in front of you will smile and say, oh no, you came in with these. You came in with them in your last life and even the life before. They were so you'd get used to them and they'd be part of you. But it wasn't until the sun came out that you could plant them. Are you getting this? This is a metaphor for the shift. The sun has come out, and the guide says, choose your seeds. And you see their label: benevolence, kindness, change on the planet, health for yourself, understanding. It's different. They're not things, they're concepts, each one of them. And some of them you see are personal. It seems that some of them are not. Some of them are planetary. You go for the first one. Why is there a difference? Why do I select one I need? And then the guide says, this is free choice. It's always free choice. Look at the labels. You glance at the labels and you see, I like this one. And it says, things I should know. And things that will then manifest that I know to the planet. Oh, that's a concept of you in the field, dear ones. Are you getting that? And you choose it. And as you choose it, the guide says, it is done. These are the seeds you will take back with you when you return to your chair. These are the seeds that you immediately will start planting on this earth. And as you go to the Circle of 12s for this month, we will reappear. And you will choose other seeds that you need at that time. But the ones you chose this time truly is more about understanding what you need to know at this time for your life. So the invitation, dear one, the guide says to you, who represents all the guides, go from this place after you ponder this love with me, because I'm going to stay with you for a while, and we're going to bless these seeds together. We're going to energize them and activate them, you and I, because when this is over, you will have them in your hand, figuratively, on the chair, and you will begin to push them into the dirt and cover them and water them. And you will start seeing the things you need to know and you need to understand. And they will go right into the field, and the planet will know you've been here. Stay. Stay and have these seeds that you've selected blessed. Stay and have these seeds you've selected ingrained into you, activated into you. So when you return, you will not be the same. Stay. And so it is.